really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know a few of you from being in different conferences and things, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. Pallav, who is here, is actually the founder of ControlMap. I joined in with him on the journey after he was starting this a couple years earlier. We're about 5 years into this journey of ControlMap, and what ControlMap's all about is helping basically on the cybersecurity compliance kind of automation side. So we're going to show you what we've done for CMMC. We've put a lot of focus on this in the last couple of years, and we're going to focus in on the evidence and the SSP side. And we would encourage any questions along the way. We'll open time at the end there for questions. But we're going to go ahead and do a workshop and actually show you live what it looks like so that you're a little more prepared for yourselves when it comes time to do this work. Or if you're working with maybe outsourced IT or an MSP, for instance, what they might be working, what you can expect in the process. Let me see if I can get I'm going here. Let's see here. There you go. All right, cool. So that should work. Awesome. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So we'll just do a brief intro, and then we'll get into evidence, and then we'll get into the SSP, and then we're going to do a little bit of a demo of what it looks like to kind of workshop this out with you guys. So just a brief introduction here. I think I already had a good introduction, but I'm actually from Portland, Oregon, and I moved to Prescott, Arizona, if anyone knows where that is. Pallav and I met in Portland, and he moved up here. So he went north, I went south. But Pallav, again, is the original founder. Does your mic work, by the way?
No.
No? I don't know if you want to introduce yourself at all, Pallav.
Thanks. I think you pretty much introduced me, but Dan and myself, we have been on this journey for the last 4 years, and it's been amazing.
Pallav's also an author here as well. Let's see if this works.
Yeah.
There we go. So we have a couple copies of his book, Getting Started with Compliance. You're welcome to come back and grab a copy if you're interested. And we'll be joined by David here as well. David's been using ControlMap as an admin for the last couple of years. So you're welcome. If you're going to join from there. That's perfect. Yeah, you're good.
Come up.
No, you're good either way. You can come up. You can stay there. Whatever you're more comfortable.
We're all friends.
Perfect. How many of you have worked with David here? A few of you. Perfect. All right. Yeah. So David's with Compliance Cavalry, as mentioned. And anything you want to introduce? Some of the things that you've been working on in the last few weeks.
Last few weeks. Well, actually, just last week. Can we say it? No. Can we, Steve? We've been working with a few clients. Last week we went through an assessment with one of our clients, and we did well.
Awesome.
So far.
We'd love to hear that.
Trending net. Good stamp. Trending net.
That is good news. So we come from a company called ScalePad. ControlMap's the cybersecurity compliance product in the ScalePad portfolio. We are about 275 people spread throughout North America, and we have some offices abroad as well. Headquarters in the U.S. is Scottsdale, Arizona, and then also we have offices throughout Canada as well here. We have 12,000 partners that we work with globally, and 3,000 in the compliance space, and we have over 500 CMMC implementations. So we'll share with you some of those best practices we've learned along the way. This is the kind of the portfolio of products, and again, ControlMap is the cybersecurity compliance automation piece. We work with 60 different frameworks, and that seems like that is a lot. That's a lot of different industries, but we've really narrowed our focus into kind of the top 3 or 4, and CMMC is one of those. Have any of you here worked with any of these other frameworks? I know you're all here for CMMC. Got a handful. So you kind of understand that the concepts are actually very interchangeable when it comes to things like evidence collection, when it comes to things like auditability, and some of the things, though, in CMMC are very unique, like the SSP, for instance, is specific to, and SPRS score, for instance, very specific to CMMC. We can see it, reason that we can expect CMMC to be, fairly unique here. Over the next 5 years, this is a very flattened timeline. As mentioned, 330,000 businesses will be touched by CMMC just through the Department of Defense, but we expect more departments. So you can see how this ramps up very, very quickly. And it's really good news that you're here so early, because you're in the first kind of introductory first few thousand. I mean, that's a really rough estimate here for 2025 of folks getting started. But this will ramp very quickly, and everything that you're learning right now will be extremely valuable, extremely applicable for the next decade to help protect our nation's data. We've been through the levels. I think Joy and Ashley did a great job presenting on this, so we're not going to spend a ton of time. I will just mention we keep seeing the number 110 objectives, and then also those 15 objectives for level 1. It's a little bit broader than that when you look at the sub-assessment. It's more like 320 assessment objectives for the sub-assessment for level 2, and it's 56 for level 1. And then those are categorized into those domains or those control families. So we won't spend a ton of time on that. I think we've done a pretty good job of explaining that. But just to kind of level set, so level 1, again, basic safeguarding of FCI data, and level 2 is broad protection of CUI data. This is literally the language taken from CMMC. We don't work on level 3. Anyone here work on level 3? Probably not. Oh, Joy does, of course. Most of us don't, so I'm going to skip that one. These are some of the features and deliverables that we've built into ControlMap, but these are also the deliverables that you can expect to work on. So for instance, your SPRS scoring, that's something that we've talked about. You've heard pretty much every session talk about. We'll show you that live, what that looks like to calculate that. Your SSP, so your system security plan, we're going to show you what that looks like to build that out a little bit, what's included there. The evidence, what kind of evidence are we collecting? We'll show you what that looks like, and we'll show you what it looks like to export that out, and what the assessors are looking for when they're looking at that evidence. Your shared responsibility matrix, so this is an important component. You keep hearing that mentioned over and over again, that's a necessary component. We'll show you exactly what that data looks like to enter on there. At least I think you will. Will you show that, Paul? Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Perfect. And then some of the other things like CUI labels on data, these are other things that we've included into our platform that we know are necessary from working with the industry. And then CUI linked out evidence if you have to keep that CUI data in your enclave, for instance. I will mention FedRAMP Moderate. We host on a FedRAMP Moderate or FedRAMP High environment, and we ourselves have been through FedRAMP Moderate equivalency assessment. So we are not on the FedRAMP marketplace because we don't work with directly with a federal agency. You actually have to be sponsored by a federal agency to be on the FedRAMP marketplace. So we do host, for instance, on AWS GovCloud to accomplish this, but then go through our own FedRAMP moderate equivalency assessment annually to satisfy that requirement. Okay, so let's take a look at the compliance journey. This compliance journey applies to a lot of the frameworks that we just mentioned, but very much applies to CMMC. So one of the things you'll start out with is assessment and your risk assessment. And of course, the scoping is going to be very critical. As Ace mentioned earlier, you need to focus in on exactly what you've scoped in. You'll then address any gaps based on that assessment. If you cannot address those gaps, that becomes POAM items, and then you'll go through that assessment or that audit. David, anything you want to add? What's one of the first things you guys work on when you're working with a customer, bringing them in, maybe asset inventory? What is it the first thing that you do?
I think it was mentioned a few times during this conference so far. The biggest and hardest thing to do is scoping, right? And that includes assets and accumulating all of that. But if you don't have scoping, you're really nowhere. Once you get to understand, and part of that process, everybody's got to understand where their CUI is. Not a lot of people really understand where it is or where it's going to be coming from. A few of our clients currently don't have CUI, and so we have to go through conversations about, well, how are we going to go through these scenarios, go through a scoping exercise as when you get CUI, what is it going to look like, where is it going to live, how are you going to process it, where are you going to store it, and transmit. So scoping is very big.
Yeah, 100%.
Which includes assets. And
That's going to include the assets you're going to start with, and that'll start to form that risks. Exactly. The road to your certification will look something like this. You'll determine that CMMC level. That's by your contract, of course, and then you'll work through the journey to work toward compliance here. So let's talk about the SPRS score for just a second. You guys have seen this. You start out with a negative 203, and you're working toward a 110. I think it was mentioned a couple times that you have to achieve a perfect 110. I understood you could POAM a few items. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, actually, I believe that the score is an 88, but it can't be any of the 5 or 3 point. Well, definitely not the 5 pointers.
Okay.
But you can have an 88. You have, I think, 180 days afterwards to finish those POAMs.
Gotcha. All right, let's get into evidence. Show me the evidence. Got a couple of Tom Cruise movies here for you. So just some concepts and examples, and then we're going to get into the live demo here. So first off, the documentation. A couple things that the evidence takes the form of. So think of documentation. So there's both non-technical and technical forms of evidence. So documentation like policies and procedures. These could be technical, they could be non-technical. But artifacts would be like logs, configuration files, screenshots. These are all the things that make up your evidence, how you're going to demonstrate that you actually do what you say that you do. So these are the key things that will be looked at during the assessment. This also might come in the form of a physical review or a live kind of screen share review. Methods by the assessor, they will examine these. They may interview either yourself or other employees to identify if this is actually being implemented, and then they'll test them. And also, they may ask about, is this continuous? So they may want to see, is whatever this piece of evidence, is this control effective today? Even though you showed some evidence from 2 or 3 months ago, they may ask you, is this continuous and ongoing? And you may need to show that and demonstrate that. So some key concepts here. It's important that you'll have to map your evidence to your controls and objectives. We'll briefly show you that. Scoping, again, very critical. And then the concept of either continuous or point in time. You'll probably have to take mostly point in time, but be prepared for continuous when asked. Well, I won't be able to go through all of this, but if any of you want to see some of the common pitfalls to avoid when it comes to evidence, come back and see us over here. We have a booth in the back, and I can send you the presentation. You're more than welcome to grab that. I don't know if we're sending that afterwards. The other one would be like a practical checklist here. So with that, I think we can probably, let's see, get into SSP. Yeah, this is where we can kind of get into our demo. Do you want to use the mouse, or are you going to go with
I'll go with it.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Is that on?
Okay, yeah, it's on.
Perfect.
Thanks, Ben. Let me switch to the demo. And thanks everyone who has done the presentation in the morning. I don't have to explain the acronyms and the terms involved. So you can dive right in. So this is the ControlMap platform. There's a lot on the left. We're just gonna be focused on the CMMC part. And this is our frameworks landing page with CMMC. And one of the things that happens the moment you land on this page is that a common ground is established with anyone who's working with you on the program. Everyone knows we are 23% compliant right now. This is our SPRS score, and what's the breakdown. Right, so that's kind of the power of the platform itself, that there are no spreadsheets, there are no emails, there are no SharePoint. It's all there in a collaborative environment, and everybody is speaking the same language. So this is, for CMMC especially, we show the SPRS score right middle and center of everything. When you click on it, you see the breakdown, right? a lot of you have spoken about the different weightages on different controls. So we break everything down. You can see what's still at -5, what's at 1, what's -3, what's 3. So this kind of gives you a very clear picture on where you are, what you have to focus on. And I'll go through the process of changing it and kind of updating these scores and assessing it within the platform. But again, as you're working on your compliance in real time, the score keeps updating and kind of establishes where you are in your journey. Right. So let's dive right in. And I don't know how.
I was wondering if you could zoom, or is it will that screw anything up?
That's probably why.
Yeah,
Is it better?
it's getting a little better. There we go. That's a good.
All right. So as you drill down within the CMMC compliance program itself, this is the breakdown of each control family, and you can very easily see where you are at with each one of them, right? In this case, most of them are 100% assessed, but it doesn't mean that you are compliant. So as you hover over on these different kind of progress bars, you can see where you are, what you have to focus on. Again, the action items which form part of your POAM, I'm going to kind of show you, kind of go in that in a bit. The documents that are required and the evidences you have to complete. So let's just drill down. It's scoped level 1, level 2. If you are just doing level 1, you can take the whole level 2 out of scope, or just filter by what you're working on. So let's go in one of them and just drill down in a single control. And this is kind of the 360-degree view of that control itself. Now there are many moving parts, as most of you have spoken about. There are implementation details, there are artifacts, the policies, evidence, risk. There's a lot associated with a single control, right? And then you add up 110 controls, it actually becomes very complex to manage all of that. So this is what we do. Kind of go here, everything is in here. You can do your assessment. The cool thing is, if you are saying no to a sub-objective, that you're not meeting it, it will prompt you to enter action item or track it in a POAM.
So what Pallav's showing right now, this is the sub-assessment categories for NIST 800-171R2A. And that is what basically the assessment is based on, and all your SPRS score is based on those A sub-assessment categories or sub-assessment objectives.
Yeah, and then it all tracks, right? So if you are partially or no, you know what action item is related to that control. So that traceability on why you're doing, what evidence you're collecting, it all maps back to the control and the control family. Similarly with implementation, you can track everything here. It's all version controlled, all activities tracked. So if you are in a big team and multiple people are working on this control, you can collaborate and track who did what. All the policies and procedures are here. The evidence that you have collected or you have to collect is in there. Sometimes people like to track risks. We spoke about the responsibility matrix. For each control, you can document who is doing what. It all shows up in the reports. It shows up in the SSP document, which I'll kind of pull down in a minute. But this kind of the flow of going through each control, tracking everything, what's linked to that control, kind of becomes the central activity. And the benefit of that is, as you're going through this exercise of doing an assessment on each control, your POAM is kind of getting pre-populated. Now this is a very program management kind of a view which the system supports. But this is kind of what a POAM export ideally looks like. You have your action item, the objective it is linked to, where it is, the date. There are a lot more details you can track. Planned and milestones, the controls it is linked to. So again, just this being a software, it's so dynamic. As you're doing it, it's getting populated, it's changing its status. So anytime somebody comes in and wants the picture point in time, we can get all this information out from the system.
Yeah, so and we've been working with a number of C3PAO organizations and CMMC consultants that are our customers over the last 2 years, and specifically continuing to tune this up over the last 6 months to a year to meet these requirements as we've worked with these hundreds of companies going through CMMC. So we keep tuning this up. So as we hear feedback from you, we keep making adjustments and improving the process. Our goal is to really save a lot of clicks, save the work, because this is very repetitive. It's also time consuming. I mean, Dave, you could probably speak to this a little bit. Like there's a lot of effort that goes into trying to capture all of these pieces. You've probably gotten a sort of a preview of what that looks like hearing these different sessions. That's why scoping is so important, because you don't want that scope to bleed out to more than you need. So we try to narrow it as much as possible, because there's a lot that goes into this. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, David.
Well, I'm actually looking at some of my clients who are actually use the products currently for their journey. I really like this product a lot. The one thing that was really just a technicality, what we do in. Could you go back to one of the controls? Just go into one. So what we've done, what our assessor wants is they want each objective, all of the 320 objectives, they want an answer for each one of those, right? So what we've done is we went into the
Notes here.
The notes.
no, not the notes. Eventually that'll go into that, but under
Implementation?
implementation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's hard to read upside down. And what we've done there is we've addressed all the objectives in the implementation, because it works out better in the SSP when it automatically generates an SSP based on this data, which is awesome.
Yeah, it saves you. That's another step, right?
Right, it saves another step.
Yeah.
But we've addressed A, B, C, and D in that stage. The other thing that really is cool here is obviously it's a database-driven tool. And there's a lot of evidence that you can use in various controls or objectives, right? And so what's really cool about this, and with policies, is you can map that evidence to multiple places. I don't know if you can show
Sure.
an evidence and how you go through the mapping.
Yeah, so for example, EU11.
And you can see on right there, yeah, see where it's got a bunch of different controls and objectives that it's mapped to. And so when we were going through the process, we would go, oh, well, we already took that evidence. Oh, okay, well, let's just go to the evidence and map it to this new control and go from there. And also with policy too, right?
Yeah.
As we're going through, we're going, okay, our access control policy meets this one too, so we just go into our policy and just quickly map it. And then finally, what's the really cool thing is how it's packaged. Right, with our last assessment, they just love that. You have a report that you go to, and it creates this zip file.
Mm-hmm.
But what's special about the zip file? It has every single control has the policies and the evidence in each of the folders. So it really just packages it right up for the auditor.
That was built from feedback from a C3PAO, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, well,
So
you want to show that?
The last few minutes, let's quickly jump into the SSP. And as you mentioned, there are really two parts to the SSP. So one is more like a template where you have static content. So all these sections that change but not that frequently. So you pre-populate, and this is based on the standard SSP template. You pre-populate all these sections. You can even embed documents which are there in the system, so it automatically populates all the sections based on individually approved and reviewed documents. And then lastly, the controls which we dynamically populate based on the assessment you have gone through, and any other artifacts that you want to pull in. And at the end, it just creates a 600-page document.
That's all. It's just 600 pages. Light reading.
Yeah. So let's just look into one of them. So everything that you have done kind of pulls out in here. So for example, this one, partially compliant, the sub-objectives, the notes, implementation plan, I think we also include the breakdown of the SPRS code. So we have that and the other artifacts that have been included.
Can you show the evidence export? I don't know if you have that handy real quick. So that was what you were just talking about, which is when you export your evidence. It's important that your evidence has to be, and you can do this manually. And both Pallav and I did this manually for 10 years, and that's why we built ControlMap, because we're like, we're not doing that anymore. So this is the automated look of it. So you export out your evidence, and it's like already bucketed, and labeled for you. And when you have to upload this to either your assessor for your C3PAO, and they in turn have to go and upload it to, am I drawing a blank on the platform? Yeah, EMAS. This is the format that's necessary.
Yeah.
It needs to be organized and labeled and bucketed accordingly.
And I think we're getting pretty close to that format on our meta data that we export. But there is for every evidence or every control, there's a folder with evidence in it. It does also, it's there in the system too. So if you're running an external audit, again, these are these little light bulbs which tell you where you are on the audit for each control. So if you're auditing it, the system automatically creates this view for your auditor. It pulls in the, as per the date of the audit period, it'll pull in the evidence, the documents, the artifacts which are associated, and show it to the auditor. I think this one is submitted to the auditor. You can kind of complete it, send it. And the other cool thing the auditor does most of the time is they can test it. And this information directly goes into your export.
Yeah, I actually think I have a slide up there that shows you what the assessor actually is filling out for EMAS, which aligns to what we have here.
Correct.
So we'll pause there. I know we were a little late getting up, so we were going a minute or two over, but I don't know if there's any questions there at this point. We can pause for a moment, and then I know you guys, if you're antsy to get on break, we can release you if you need to go. We're going to do break here in a moment, but any questions, we're happy to answer. Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So we're primarily in the mid market, SMB and mid market, I would say. But we have, our largest customer is in the 50,000 seat range. So I can't say that that's 100% true. So it's primarily in that range. And
mostly MSP.
Yeah, mostly. We were invited here because of HD Cavalry and to the hosts, and we've been working with them the last couple years, and that's our, tends to be our partners. Those 12,000 partners mentioned, those are those MSP partners throughout the world. That's not the case for CMMC specifically. That's in the probably in the small hundreds right now. But I expect it to grow because the demand is there. Yep.
So you mentioned POEMs and how it's integrated in here. So can we take it to mean that this tool is an ongoing? Can we take it to mean that this tool is an ongoing and continuous monitoring and updating of controls going forward? It's not kind of a once and done.
Yeah. Okay.
No, yes, it is. So most of the evidence you can schedule to be collected every month, every week in our system. You can assign owners. We've also built like 50 integrations into these different HR systems and cloud and all. So you can connect and pull in the information on a daily basis from those systems too. So it does do the continuous compliance.
So looking at this, so this makes all the sense in the world in terms of how it's mapped to the structure of CMMC, all the requirements. So you mentioned other frameworks. Mm-hmm. So what's kind of interesting is the evidence, do you have your evidence or your structures cross-mapped to each other? So in other words, if I have CMMC and let's say SOC 2 type 2, in terms of HIPAA, I don't know, PCI DSS, if an evidence happens to apply to multiple frameworks, would the same evidence be used in those multiple frameworks?
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
platform.
absolutely. We can show you that on a separate demo. We only have the one framework
Yeah,
left.
someone in the morning mentioned secure control framework. So underlying all our frameworks, we have the layer of SCF,
Okay.
and everything kind of maps using that.
Okay,
And-
makes sense.
Tom Cornelius actually pointed us in the right direction
Yeah.
probably 5 years ago. So thank you, Tom. He's not in here, I don't think, but
I
he's
think
the-
someone asked a question about the licensing model, and I think you might have missed answering that.
Yeah, so licensing model. So you actually can try this. We have a free edition. You can try it for free. It's $100 a month is like the base level to just do assessment. And if you're going to go through the evidence and audit, it's a couple $100 a month. And you typically, again, are working with service providers are the ones that are helping you do this. That's they do the service side, and we're just the software. Like we don't do the consulting part. We are software only. And we train you on how to do it, but if you're on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you, Dan. Real quick. The reason that we wanted to make sure that we had invited Dan and his product here is we've talked to so many companies who are trying to do this on their own. They're trying to fill out spreadsheets. They're trying to write their own documentation from scratch. It is unbearable to try and do this on your own. So this is a product that we're used to. There are other products out there.
You can also do it manually. I don't advise it, but you can.
Don't do it manually.
You can do it.
But I believe, like Totem and many of these, I'm not sure if Cloud9 has a GRC tool. So the vendors here have options for you. We were familiar with this. We can attest to this product. It does work really well for us. But don't do this on your own. This is so difficult to pull together. They have done an incredible job of mapping things together and having one location for you. Yeah, kind of a single pane of glass type of situation. So really cool that they come up with this, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for your insight. That's exactly what I was looking for.
To
Thank
a
you.
break.